if I were to tell you that I could help you save your plant from certain death this fall? That the plant you put so much love and care into growing this year could be saved and used again next spring. This is entirely possible, and I'm about to show you how. Before you can even think about ripping that plant out of the ground, go out there and pick all the peppers you can off of it. You've worked all year on growing that thing. Don't let anything go to waste. I know this may seem drastic, and I know that a lot of you are about to be just screaming at me through your screen, but I need you to hear me out. I need you to get a clean and sharp pair of pruning shears and just cut the top 2/3 of this plant. Just clean off. Get rid of it. We don't need it anymore. This plant needs to focus on just staying alive and just resting for the winter. You don't want it trying to grow and support all of that foliage. Next, we want to grab our shovel. We want to dig about 18 to 24 inches around the plant and about 18 to 24 inches down as well. Dig a nice little circle around the plant and then put your shovel in and slowly just lift up underneath the plant. You're going to feel the roots start to give a little bit. You're definitely going to feel some pops and some rips in there. You're going to lose some of the roots. There's no way around it. It's going to happen, but it's okay. Don't stress out about it. It'll be fine. So now you have this little nubbin of a plant. You have a little dirt cloud of roots on the bottom of it. But now I need you to take a look at the leaves that are still left on the plant. If you see any leaves that are yellow or have edema, little white spots on the bottom of the leaves or anything that just doesn't look right, I need you to pull those leaves off of the plant. If the plant is trying to heal these leaves, it's just going to suck more energy out of this plant that it really doesn't have to give right now. Okay, so here's the thing. If you're going to take a plant that's been living outside all summer long and bring it inside for the winter, you're probably going to bring in some bugs with it. And you're probably like, oh, Brandon, why didn't you tell me that earlier? Well, I didn't tell you because it's not that big of a deal. There's different things we can do to lessen the impact of that. We can quarantine the plants and do some other things I'm going to show you here in just a minute. Take a deep breath. Don't worry about it. It's really not a big deal. The first thing we're going to do to kind of help mitigate this critter issue, if you have access to a hose, go over to your hose, turn it on, spray off your plant a little bit, and then you really want to spray off your roots as much as you can. Get all that extra soil out of your roots. You're probably going to rip some roots. It's going to mess your roots up quite a bit, but it's okay. They're going to grow back. You want to try to just rinse anything off from the outside before you bring it inside. If you don't have access to a hose, take your fingers and run them through the roots, shake it off really well, get all that extra dirt off of the plant before you bring it inside. Now we really need to get this plant into a pot, but before you do that, I need you to really think about the size of pot that you're about to use. If you use a pot that is too big, what's going to happen is when you water it, the roots aren't going to soak up that excess water. They're just going to sit there in this really wet soil. You're going to start seeing issues like edema and root rot, and your plant's going to go downhill really fast. You want to give this plant the best situation you possibly can, and by doing that, you can put it in a smaller pot. I'm going to say a gallon, gallon and a half. That's going to be the size you're looking at. Don't go too much bigger than that. Make sure it's nice and compact. You want the roots to just fill out this pot, but not have too much extra room. We're not trying to grow peppers indoors right now. We're just trying to keep this thing alive to make it into the spring. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is the soil we're going to use. It doesn't really need to be anything fancy. Just make sure it's something that is well draining and has a little bit of fertilizer in it. This plant is going to need a little bit of food to get itself through the winter, and you want to make sure that you're not getting waterlogged. So I'm going to be using this Miracle-Gro potting mix, nothing fancy, but I am going to be adding some perlite to it just to kind of help with that drainage. Before you put your plant in the pot with the soil, you want to pre-moisten your soil. You don't want to get it too wet, you don't want it to be too dry, and the perfect test for that is put some water in your soil, mix it around, and then pick up a handful of that soil and squeeze it as hard as you possibly can. You should be able to get 2 to 3 drops out of that, and that's about it. And then put your pepper in the pot, filled up to about the same soil line as it was when it was outside in the ground. We just cut 2/3 of this plant off. We ripped it up out of the ground. We pulled roots off of it. We washed all the dirt that it had off of these roots. We really just beat this plant up. If a boxer goes 12 rounds in a fight, does he go and fight the next day? No, they're going to take some time off, they're going to kick back, and they're going to relax for a while. And it's going to be the same thing with your plant. So when you're deciding on where to put this plant in your house, I'm going to need you to think of a few things before you make that decision. First thing is going to be, don't put it in direct sun. This thing needs to just chill out, keep out of the sun, 4 to 5 hours of sun a day, and that is it. Just let it chill out for a little while. The second thing is back to the critter issue. This plant might still have some critters on it, so don't put it by your other plants. Keep it separated from any house plants you might have or any other peppers you might have. Just keep it isolated for a few weeks and really keep a close eye on it. If I was you, I'd probably be spraying it once a week with neem oil or something similar, just to really make sure that you're not bringing bugs into your house. because trust me, last season, my entire pepper season was almost ruined because of bugs. I had to throw away 200 pepper plants, and it was pretty devastating, so don't make that mistake. So your plant's been sitting in the partial sun 4 to 5 hours for a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks now, and you're starting to see some new growth. Now it's time to start transitioning it back into some full sun. You're not so much in hypercare mode anymore, because once the leaves are starting to grow again, that means the roots are establishing again, and it's kind of back into its rhythm. Congratulations! Now you're going to have a fully established pepper tree to put directly into your garden as soon as spring comes around. That's so exciting. It's going to be producing peppers 2 months before the rest of your plants are. That's awesome. You obviously like pepper plants because you're watching this video, so I really hope you like peppers themselves, because I got this awesome video here of the #1 pepper that my family uses in the kitchen.